Welcome to the Working Tools Podcast, where today we will have an informal discussion about Masonry.
Ladies and gentlemen, brethren all, welcome to the Working Tools Podcast, a casual conversation around Freemasonry. First, it's important to note that our thoughts and opinions are our own and do not reflect those of our Grand Lodge or respective craft or concordant bodies. Please connect with us and ask questions via our website at theworkingtoolspodcast.com.
Today on the Working Tools Podcast, we have 3/4 of our usual cast of characters here. I'm Very Worshipful Brother Matthew Appel. I'm the Secretary of Mill Creek Lodge number 243 in Montlake Terrace, Washington. We have Very Worshipful Brother David Colbeth, who's a member of King Solomon number 60 down in Auburn, Washington. Actually, I guess you're the junior warden. Is that right?
I am the junior warden.
King Solomon number 60.
Yeah.
And Jarrod Dunham of Penticton Lodge 147 in Penticton, British Columbia. Where do you hold an office there, Jarrod? I should know this.
I'm the Lodge Education Officer.
The knower of things. And on today's show, we will be sort of having a free-form, informal discussion about several different aspects of Masonry. We started talking and kept recording, and this is what it is. So thank you all for coming, and we'll here we go.
Yeah, of course, I didn't read the second article.
Which is the second one?
The Decline of Fraternal Ritualism.
In America.
In America. Is it in America?
Well, the book is all about Victorian America. So I just, every time I read that, I always go, in America.
In America.
Because it's not happening up here in Canada. Oh, no, we're.
That's what the first articles I had read before, and then I read it again. And I kept talking about U.S. and I thought, I would guess we could surmise or extrapolate that to Canadian involvement as well. I don't know if their numbers are similar.
Yeah, I mean, the decline. I mean, our graph, like I said, I graphed out the membership numbers for our lodge, and it's the same, almost the identical line. I'm like, it's like,
Yeah.
So,
what kind of new computer did you get, man? One that needs to be unmuted. He's got to figure out which button do I push to unmute.
Nope, still muted.
My podcast friends are making fun of me for not being muted when I'm talking to my daughter on the phone.
Oh,
We hadn't started actually recording yet, so you're good.
That's okay.
All right. See you good. Love you too. Bye. Sorry about
pay
that.
attention to us.
All right. I could read I could continue reading my article.
There you go. Continue back. And I can go back to trying to memorize what I have to. Oh, stupid me said, oh yeah, I'll do all the senior deacon ritual for a fellowcraft degree. That my head hurts.
When is it?
Thursday. I've got most of it committed to memory. I'm just sort of working through the 3, 5, and 7 still. And of course,
lecture.
Oh, what I'm doing the full everything that says SD in the book is me. Like from there's an alarm at the door to thank you for coming and turn out the lights.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's our lodge. We don't have, you can't break lectures up because there's no one there to do them. Yeah.
We arrive at the south gate, which we find stoutly guarded.
Yeah. Locked, bolted, chain.
So how many members do you have?
It's in the high 20s. But, once again, we'd be lucky to get a dozen members out to a meeting. And they're all like 85, 90 years old.
High 20s, like
I think we might have 28 members.
28?
I don't know. I haven't looked recently. I think at one point we were at 30, but
I went and visited a lodge in Pennsylvania once, and they were talking about merging with another lodge at the meeting I was at. And one of the reasons that they wanted to merge was that they were losing members, so they were below 500. And I was like, so.
Well, when you have a cathedral to support, I suppose.
Right. And what isn't it like the statistic is like 5% of members actually go to meetings.
Yeah, something like
Really?
that. 5 or 10.
5 or 10. So I mean, granted, that's 25 or 50 people. I mean, I'd kill to have 25 or 50 bodies in the lodge hall to take on jobs.
Yeah.
Well,
But-
if you have less than 30 members and 12 show up, that's almost 50%.
Well, yeah. But I mean, it's still not enough to fill all the seats.
Yeah. Which is what I've found, even though we had at one point around like 80 members or so, there's only 40 or so that could come if they wanted to. And we get about 20-ish each
Right.
meeting. And so I'm pretty happy that we get roughly 50%, between 30 and 50%, 40 and 50% participation. Now, not to everything, of course, but
Right.
yeah. So it kind of plays to this discussion we're going to have tonight.
We're going to record a whole episode before we say we're recording an episode
Maybe.
again, aren't we?
If that was my lodge, should my lodge exist? If you got one guy to perform all the ritual and the rest of them can't do anything, should that lodge exist? Why does the lodge exist? To hope that maybe somebody might join?
Because we don't want to only have 2 lodges in our district. Because unfortunately, another lodge in our district just voted to hand in their charter.
Yeah.
Because their issue is the city owned the building that they met in, and the building's been basically condemned.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nowhere else. They live in a town of 1,500 people, and there's nowhere else for them to meet.
Yeah.
So they've just thrown in the towel.
Will they then go to another lodge, or will they just not longer be?
I think like some of them will go to, I think most of them will probably affiliate, like some will affiliate with our lodge, some will affiliate with a lodge, like, because they're in Princeton, which is sort of on the way to Vancouver from here. It's about an hour and a half away. No, not an hour and a half, but so that they are they actually have their close ties to another lodge in Hope, which is about an hour and a bit away from them. So I think some of the membership will bleed into other lodges, but not enough to save the lodges.
So Matt, if you had to drive an hour and a bit to get to lodge and an hour and a bit home, would you go? I don't know that. I mean, I might, but I don't know.
Well, that's my issue, is that the only lodge in like my area, I'm in the only lodge now in my area that does ancient work. So if my lodge is closed, my lodge closes, I have to go to Steven's Lodge in Kelowna, which is almost just a little under an hour's drive away.
Kelowna, it's Steven's Lodge. Ew.
Well, I know they do it weird there. They do weird things.
Yeah, it's honestly no. So we talked about lodges going away and that sort of stuff at the last thing, and I was thinking about exactly this, that there are, I mean, small towns in BC or Washington or Florida or wherever that have a lodge in them, that if that lodge goes away, essentially there's just no masonry in that area.
Right.
And if we want to believe, which I want to believe, whether or not it's true is a separate discussion, but if we want to believe that we have some sort of, I don't know what the word is, recipe for self-improvement or for making men better men, then wouldn't we want to be in these places? Wouldn't we want to be everywhere we could possibly be?
You would think.
Okay, so you guys may not understand this, but up here in BC, we have an issue with closing our ERs over the weekend. There was a town, it was in our news this weekend that there was a town on Vancouver Island, or an island north of Vancouver Island, where they were all up in arms because their ERs will be closed all weekend. They can't find the staff to staff it. No nurses, no doctors, no nothing. And I shouldn't use the term whining. They're commenting on this, to which I then went and looked up, and their town has 489 people in it. So in a town of 489 people, how many medical professionals do you need to keep a 24/7 ER open that want to live in a town where it is literally the only town on that island? So it's the same. I feel that it's sort of the same thing with Freemasonry, is that there is a, oh God, we are recording an entire episode before. there is a certain size of community that is just too small to viably support a lodge. And then unfortunately, it means that you either have to, if there are other, like in the Okanagan here, if there are other communities within a short drive, you have to try and pull them in, or you have to go to them. Because I know that the other lodge in town seems to be doing reasonably well. I just don't like the Canadian work.
Reasonably well means what, do you think?
I think they might actually have 50 members. Like they're always bragging about how many people they're getting coming through their, 12. I almost said 12-step program, 6-step. Their 6-step program, and they're doing, they've got their, they do a golf thing over the summer, and they're always having, doing stuff together. So, I mean, I never go because I just can't be bothered. But
fuddy-duddy.
So, well, no,
they're Masons. They're Masons too.
I know they're Masons, but I really
they're not going to be doing ritual on the golf course.
Well, no, I don't golf. You're never going to get me on a golf course.
Go have a beer.
Go out. Yeah, but they drink that weak caps. No, but the thing is, so I mean, maybe there really should only be one lodge in the South Okanagan here. Maybe we should just accept that fact.
One kind of regional, one for every 50,000 people or something.
Yeah, because I think if we were to take this like from Summerland to the border, we're probably maybe 75,000 people. So
what was the number? Was it a 0.25% of the population were Freemasons, right? Roughly 0.25%. So if we
in the US.
Of the US, so let's extrapolate that 0.25%. If you wanted 100 members,
you need 100,000 people.
40,000. 40,000.
Sorry?
40,000.
40,000.
So yeah, so one lodge for 50,000 people, 50,000 people would.
It's the Tim Hortons theorem.
Yeah, it's a franchise. They're basically a franchise.
Well, it's a franchise. No, and that's what Tim Hortons does. They have I think it's one Tim Hortons for the city size you're in. It's like one Tim Hortons for every 6,000.
We'll just build a lodge right next to every Tim's.
Well, there you go. Well, then we'd have three lodges in this town, and that wouldn't work.
Wasn't that Tully's? That was Tully's coffee thing, wasn't it? Wherever there's a Starbucks, they wanted a Tully's coffee next door. They weren't going to bother doing their own market research. They were just going to put a Tully's next to every Starbucks.
Well, you have 3 Tim's, so you have 120,000 people.
No, it's one for every 50. It's one for every 5 or 8. I think it's one for every 8 because I think we used to have 4, and there's 35,000 people that live in Penticton.
Yeah. So that would be almost exactly the right number for one lodge.
Yeah, which we have.
Yeah. And I would say that, yes, if your lodge gets to 100 people or 50 people, whatever number you decide on, and you think, this lodge is too big and you want to start another lodge, okay. And that lodge is going to have some growing pains and development as you expand or whatever, and whatever that affinity is of why those people want to be in that lodge. But if you've got, it was a question I asked the guys when I was in Hawaii. There's 4 lodges that meet in that building, and it's the French lodge, La Progresse de la something or other, some French thing. And sorry guys, I was listening to the show that we did. I had forgot about the show that you and I and Steve had done on Freemason ritual. I found it in a folder. I thought, why am I short on shows? Anyway, I was listening to it. I made the same comment, not same comment, but I said, I'm sorry, Hawaii.
Right.
Anyway, there's a young guys, and there was a pretty small group of people at dinner, and there was probably just enough to open lodge, 10, 12 people, whatever.
Right.
And so I asked the secretary, who reminded me of one of our second degree ritualists that was amazing. He passed away a few years ago. And I said to him, so what differentiates your lodge from the other 4? And the secretary, without looking up, said, that's a good question. And so how do you decide with your 2 lodges, for example, how would you decide which one I should go to? If I was a new guy and you were thinking about going to a lodge or joining a lodge, would you join your lodge or would you join the other one?
Well, I would join my lodge because they
Canadian work, or would you like the good and proper Jarrod work? That's the question.
Well, there is, and I mean, Yeah, I mean, there is that, but I mean, it's basically, I would think, which lodge do you sort of click with?
Do the guys that are joining the other lodge, do they come visit yours to see what it's like?
Yeah, I think they've been dragged to our lodge.
And they see the 80-year-old guys and Jarrod, and they go,
Yeah.
nope.
Well, but then the problem is that everyone always, because we're not actually very nice to each other, because we're always like, as Steven says, that funny Canadian work. And then all the guys in the Canadian lodge go, yeah, but you guys have a lot of memorizing to do, because we have, our EA, like our degree exams they're long and they're arduous. In Canadian lodge, they basically they recite their oath, their obligation, and that's pretty much it. So
that's it for
that's their examination. They basically recite their oath
for their initial degree proficiency, the first degree proficiency.
Well, all 3 degree proficiencies.
Oh,
don't you guys do 3 degrees
proficiencies?
Yeah. I'm like, now once you make it through the entered apprentice, you're good. We figure you're good for all.
You're a Mason. You don't have to pay dues. You're good. That's actually one of the reasons why our lodges merged and moved. Is that we had 3 lodges meeting in the same building in Edmonds, and if you drew a 10-mile radius circle around that building, half of it is in the Puget Sound. So you're not getting anybody from over there, and that town just could not support 3 lodges in that building. So 2 of us merged, and then we moved out.
Right.
Moved. How far away did you move?
Oh gosh, I don't know. 8-10 miles. We just on
the other side of the line.
Yeah, exactly.
And are you in your own building now, our own space now?
Well, we're in the Nile Shrine building.
Oh yeah.
So okay. we're the only lodge in that building, but it's not like it's our building.
Right. Which is fine.
So far, in my opinion, it's worked out really well.
Yeah.
If nothing else, we haven't had anyone go, oh crap, I forgot to make dinner. I'm making pizza, because everything's catered. So
thank you, David, for causing me absolutely to lack a complete evenings of sleep last Sunday. When you were talking about doing a lodge at the table, I actually started working through our ritual to see if we could actually do lodge sitting at a table, and I think it actually would work.
I think so.
I actually think you could actually set it up and run it like a normal meeting, just sitting. I was even thinking, well, we could get like a checkered tablecloth with tassellated border around, and we could just call that it's just, I just don't know how we would go about getting permission to attempt it.
That's that whole permission forgiveness thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I was thinking, it could actually work.
I wanted to bring it up desperately at our last meeting, but we had a lot of business. We're raising in the process of raising our dues. So it's in several other bylaws. So there are several other bylaws changes or additions, I should say.
From what to what?
Dues. We are finally going to earmark it to the minimum wage. So it's going to be a little bit complicated. It's going to be earmarked to the minimum wage, rounded up to the nearest whole dollar, so $15 in Auburn, times a day's 8 hours, a day's labor, so times 8, and so it'll be $120.
And there's a lodge by us, Shoreline, does the same thing.
So that's just your lodge dues, not your grand lodge dues.
Correct. It'll be plus our assessment, which is like $28, right? I think.
My God, you guys are cheap.
Yes.
I mean, because our lodge dues this year were 227. I don't know. I just slap money down on the secretary's desk and walk away.
I think our grand lodge dues should be no less than 50 and probably closer to 100.
Yeah, I think ours were 68 this year. And then we have the $20 cancer car donation that you have to pay.
Right.
That's going away though, isn't it?
Well, the running of it is going away, but we're still committed to funding part of it for the next 2 years, which I'm fine. I'm fine with funding part of it. It was the running of it that, I don't know where Steven is.
And then our life membership is going to be 10 times the lodge dues, with a 20% reduction for every 10 years of age past 35.
Rounding up or down.
The accountant grimaces.
Well, I'm just thinking no, because I'm technically after 35, I like next year I'll be roughly 1.5 past. So does that count as 2 or 1?
So from 35 after 30 until 35, there's no discount, $1,200.
Right.
From 35 to 40, there's a 10% discount. I'm sorry, 20%.
Yeah, 35
discount.
to 45.
So every
35 to 44.
There'll be another 20% and then 20%. So at 75, you will owe no dues to become a life member. Now, Lodge still has to pay, of course, the assessment to Grand Lodge.
Right.
But basically, every person over 75 could be a life member.
Interesting.
And
yeah, we made ours when we went to $100. We made ours. It's the youngest age bracket is $2,000, and the oldest age bracket is 1,000, and it's graduated in between.
Yeah.
But yeah, and everyone said, "Oh, you'll never get anyone to do that." We've gotten 2 people to do it since then, so we're not.
We don't have that.
Life membership.
We did the math once. Or I did the math once, and I figured out that
and they got rid of it a few years ago.
Well,
it became
probably like I did the math for me, and it was $550 when I got my life membership. So at a 4% return or whatever, it's going to take them like 53 years after I die for them to make back the money that they spent on per capita for me. Never mind anything else.
And that's why the Grand Lodge got rid of it, is because not enough people it was introduced in the 80s when interest rates, you could make a decent buck.
Our return from our life membership per capita, it was higher, almost $800 more than our Grand Lodge assessment this year.
See, I hear that conversation all the time, but the two aren't related. I mean, that's nice and all.
No, I understand, but now if we had 400 members or 100 members, whatever the number, yes, I understand that, but they aren't related. I agree, but the idea is there's enough revenue to pay the assessment. So we could, if we didn't have any programs or anything, we didn't give any money away, didn't spend any money, we'd be even. Or we'd have $800, $700 in the bank. And so if you want to, and I think that's kind of a good mark, because then you could say, now from there, now we're at 0. We want to do what? And kind of go back to what Steven said last year, a couple of years ago, when we did the dues show, we were talking about different dues rates and all that kind of stuff. And we asked about his, and he said, well, we just divide what the bills are, and that's our dues for the year. And I thought, well, that's pretty simple. We have a budget, we have 50 guys, and you divide it by 50, which I understand. I could agree with, but also if you wanted to build any kind of program now, you could just, if you want to build a program, a scholarship or something, you just build that into it over the next 10 years. We want to raise X amount of money, and you add another $50 or $100 to every assessment. There's ways around that, but I don't know. We also added, our secretary added, the ability to work off your dues. So if for every 4 hours you work, then you get an hour. Is it hours worth of? No, that's not. How does it? If you work 32 hours, you'll get your dues paid for. Yeah, one hour's worth. So that would be whatever an eighth of 120 is. So, but it's not like degree work. It's got to be something like fundraisers or something extra, right? Not just showing up to lodge, or things you're supposed to be doing anyway, is kind of extra work stuff. They wanted to say also stuff at the temple, but the temple corporation is supposed to be a separate entity. And so there's a gray line there. It should be black, dark black, but it's not.
Yeah, there's a lodge in our area that supposedly, I haven't actually looked into it, but my understanding is that they have enough money in the bank that they're not worried about dues and that sort of stuff. But they charge you your dues, and then for each meeting you show up at, it gets reduced. So if you show up to every stated meeting in a given year, you don't have to pay anything, because they just want people in the lodge room.
I think
that's their incentive program.
Lodge number is 7, isn't it?
You know, say
St. John's Lodge does that. St. John's number 7.
That's my understanding. Number 9.
Yeah. Number 9. Oh, 9. Okay. Mucho. Or wait, sorry. Yeah. So yeah, they have like several $1 million in the bank. My understanding again, sorry, St. John's. My understanding is their budget, I don't know for sure, but their budget's like $20,000 or $30,000 a year. They have to give away that much money just because of the interest. Or more. Or even more than that.
Oh,
some crazy number.
Such a problem.
Yeah, right.
I will say in the interest of full disclosure, my daughter is receiving a very generous scholarship from the Brothers of St. John's Lodge number 9, and I very much appreciate their support.
Yeah, they do some great, talk about real dollar charity, fiscal charity. They do some amazing things. Yeah. And they support their community really well also.
Where is it?
Where in
Seattle. They meet in North Seattle.
They used to be in downtown Seattle. Downtown Seattle. And they sold their building and property to a developer. That's why they have several million. But they meet at Greenwood Lodge now, right? I think they meet at Greenwood.
Yes, I think Greenwood, yeah.
And Greenwood is they're redoing their dining hall right now. So I think there's 3 lodges at least that meet there in Greenwood. Daylight,
yeah, wouldn't surprise me.
Greenwood, and St. John's at least. I don't know if there may be more, but they all are different lodges. Daylight Lodge is a daylight lodge. They're mostly kind of artists and things. They meet on Saturdays. I don't know what night of the week St. John's meets, but it's like a Tuesday, I think, or something.
I think it's a Wednesday, but yeah.
Tuesday, Wednesday, yeah. And then I don't really know anything about Greenwood. They're the owners of the building. I don't really know anything about them. But, well, I got the warning, Matt. You want to run us out? We can have us as a show. This is truly a casual conversation.
Yeah. This was a casual conversation about Masonry. Well, since David said it's time to be done, I guess it's time to be done. On behalf of Jarrod and David and myself and the absent Steve, thank you all for listening to the Working Tools podcast, and we look forward to talking to you again soon. Goodbye.